Welcome one and all to Umami Manga. I'm Petter and this is James.
How's it going?
And today we're talking about Frieren Beyond Journey's End Volume 8. This, I think, was an excellent volume. I had a blast reading through it. However, I somehow felt like there wasn't much to talk about with it comparatively. And I guess we'll see. We'll see. Maybe we'll end up having like a 2 hour discussion today. I don't know yet, though I doubt it. Anyway, well, do you have some spontaneous thoughts on this?
I actually think this volume was good. I mean, it's still Frieren and it's still the same kind of cozy, melancholy adventure that we're used to in the series. But for me, going from the highs of the previous volumes to this one, it was not as exciting. Not to say it was bad. It was still good, and there was still a lot of fun moments to be had.
Mm.
But it wasn't Stark and Fern on a date. So
True, we didn't get that. That was a very high we had last time.
yeah. But no, it's still a good volume.
Yes. So let's dive into the character discussions then, and we're going to start with Genau this time because he had a pretty prominent role here, and we learned, in my opinion, some interesting things about him. I thought we met up with his character in the ruins of his old hometown, which had been attacked and really
Yeah.
destroyed by those demons.
Hmm.
It's in the Rufen region, or Rufen, I believe in German, which means to shout. My best guess is that the victims were crying or shouting when they were slaughtered by the demons, maybe? If that's... I couldn't come up with any other explanation as to why the region would be called that.
Mm.
Either way, Genau said, at least, or expressed in one way or another, at least on two different occasions, that he had no affection for his hometown, or that he wasn't saddened by what had happened there, stuff like that.
Hmm.
Though to me, I thought he definitely seemed upset and sad about the town's destruction.
Yeah. I mean, no one who is completely heartless or who doesn't care would stay behind to protect corpses of all things.
Right, that's one thing for sure. And there were also like a bunch of different little nuances I thought in his expressions that to me said that he did care and that he was affected by it.
Right. I agree.
And on top of that, Frieren sensed killing intent when she arrived there, and she sensed that from Genau, which I think definitely points to his anger and his possible desire for vengeance over what had happened in his hometown there. So,
Mm-hmm.
and when he was talking about the baker's boy, it seemed melancholy to me for sure.
Yeah, I mean that moment was so good, by the way.
Mm,
Where he mentions that this friend took over for his dad. He as the baker, yeah, his baking never tasted as good. But yeah, I obviously he seemed kind of cold and deadpan when he said it, but I don't know, like there's something in that did kind of feel sentimental
right.
and emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, I don't doubt the fact that he's a very realistic person and would kill a person if he thought it was the most opportune thing or, the best for the mission or whatnot. I mean, I think the first class mage exams or whatever they were called,
Yeah,
I think that was pretty evident that he could be a ruthless person.
for sure.
But I don't think he's as cold as he thinks himself to be,
Mm.
just based on his sentimental uh, ness for
Yes.
his hometown and whatnot. Even how he kind of treats Methode
Mm.
and even Stark for the brief moment that they had with each other.
True, for sure. Yeah, it's almost like I get the feeling from this guy that he is a really sensitive guy, kind of at the core, but he doesn't like to admit it or show it, so he puts up this tough facade kind of to hide all that.
Yeah.
But as you were kind of alluding to also earlier, like there is a logic to him as well, which may not be
Hmm.
a facade as much necessarily. Like when he was talking about the dilemma about burying the corpses and stuff like that.
Hmm.
It seemed like he could really understand both sides, like genuinely. At least that
Hmm.
it seemed genuine to me.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, he. I mean, but I think it makes him into a complex and
Right.
rounded character, which makes him realistic, and I definitely enjoy the writing on him.
I thought it was interesting when him and Sidiye,
Yeah.
she mentions that uh, he's a pretty cold guy, or that he doesn't mean those kind words that he said about his partner, or some things like that. Um, and maybe to an extent, there's some truth in that, but I think it's more so that, like you were saying, he realizes that people who are kind, like his partner was,
Mm,
die. That's just the matter of fact of it, and he can't have that weakness in order to keep doing what he's doing.
right.
At least that's kind of the idea I got. Um, but again, I don't want to like say like, oh, his character is a total facade. I'm not saying that.
Mm,
I think there's, like you said, more to his character. He has the a depth, emotional depth that you probably wouldn't get from just you know a preface, or what you saw back in the exam.
yeah. Right.
One line he says, "Anyone who likes fighting can't be a decent person, so don't be like me."
Oh yeah.
And there's this interesting relationship between him and Methode, where it's like he's being an example to her of what not to be. I,
Ah.
but I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know if she herself values his example, or if she's like actually dissing him. It's like, oh, well, of all the people, I'm not gonna be like him. Like I don't know. Uh,
Hmm.
it, I mean, I again, it adds to what we were saying. What does he really feel? Does he have those sentimental feelings? And yeah, I mean, maybe deep down he is a not as callous person as he would have you believe. But anyway,
Right.
that's just.
Yeah, and I think he's fooling himself as well. With
Hmm.
those things. Like he has probably, well, obviously, yeah. There is a lot we don't know about him. So obviously, a lot of this is rather wild speculation, maybe comparatively. But
Hmm.
I really do think at this point anyway that he's been putting up this, or he's been hiding his emotions for so long. I think at this point that, or at least been trying to, that he's kind of started believing it himself that he is not someone who feels sad over his hometown being destroyed and stuff like that. So I think it's really he's in denial in this volume about all of that. I think.
Hmm.
But anything more on Genau?
No.
Then let's talk a little bit about Frieren next. I thought it was very sweet to see how she's still keeping the position for priest in the party open for sign.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
So it's nice, and I think this definitely gives me some hope about sign returning into the story
Yeah.
relatively soon, at least. The fact that he was mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, relatively soon. I think.
Mm,
Yeah, that's key. I don't know if it'll be next volume,
right.
or the one after, but I do think the fact that we're bringing him up still, it does mean that Sign will return.
Yes.
Throughout this volume, we had different examples of people, despite the terrible circumstances they're living in, still living in their hometowns.
Right.
Uh, Say what you will about how smart that is, um, the practicality of it, but I like the mindset of protecting the homes of others. Instead of taking the long route around the sea, that's safer.
Yeah.
You actually and try to help out the people who need it, protect their homes. And I like that message.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. That was beautiful. And another like little wisdom like that we learned that Frieren got from Himmel in this volume was how she asks for a reward whenever she helps people out. And
Right,
it
right.
doesn't have to be a big reward, obviously, as we know. It can just be a little, useless spell kind of. But she does it, or and Himmel before her did it in order to not make the other person feel like they're indebted to you, which is
Right.
really nice, I think. And so yeah, nice to learn about that. Though I do think in Frieren's case, it's probably a combination of that as well as just the fact that she just enjoys learning those silly little spells
Of
that
course.
she
Of
gets
course.
as
It's
a
a
reward.
win-win.
So I think it works out for her in both ways.
Absolutely. I think it's an interesting way of thinking. I think most of the time when we think of service or helping others, we don't, we try to be selfless and say, "Oh no, you don't have to give me anything," or things like that.
Right.
Maybe a little too humble in some cases.
Yeah.
And I think in a way it puts people on an even footing instead of the helper being like higher than the person who's being helped.
Hmm.
It they by having a reward of some kind, it puts the two as if they're having an exchange, a monetary exchange in a way.
Right.
So I think that's a good way of looking at it. I don't expect my own life to change in that way. I'm not gonna go and give $1 to someone in need and be like, okay, what do you got for me? Like, or something like that. Help someone cross the street. It's like pay up. No, I'm not
No,
gonna,
yeah.
I'm not gonna do that. But well, so it reminds me of I'm gonna pull from another manga we've been reading,
Uh-huh.
To Your Eternity.
Yeah.
There's a moment in that manga where the main character is trying to be kind to some people that he sees are in need,
Hmm.
but then instead of being grateful or taking that help, this one woman kind of, I think she smacks his hand even and says, "We don't need your help," or we don't need you to look down on us.
Precisely.
Your pity, something like that.
Mm.
And that's something that I do think about from time to time.
Yeah.
Um, and coming right here, this kind of addresses that idea, maybe indirectly, but to me, it addresses that sometimes instead of just helping people for the sake of helping, maybe it's better to have some sort of exchange, a reward, or not people have be in your debt.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that is an interesting connection to Your Eternity. By the way, if any of you haven't read To Your Eternity, do that. It's an excellent manga that we also covered on the podcast.
I don't feel like that was any spoiler
No, no,
content there, so
no. Yeah, no. I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't say so. But yeah, no, that was also great. It's similar to Frieren in a way, in my opinion, in that, well, not only is it like a fantasy epic in a sense, but they're both technically shonen, though they feel like they're leaning toward the seinen side rather a lot, in my opinion. Both of these stories.
hmm.
Either way, back on Frieren, was there anything else on her?
Yeah, so we learn about another elf from her past.
Yes.
Milliard? Is that help me? Is that how you pronounce her name?
Miliarde?
Milliarde? I don't know. I thought it was fun to see another elf. Even in her past, we don't see too many, or at least let alone get a name.
Yeah.
And I think she taught an important lesson to Frieren, or at least gave her some wise words, in that most elves spend their lives in pursuit of something.
Right.
And then when you actually fulfill that pursuit, what do you do with your life? It's quite a conundrum for these people, these beings who live nigh eternity. So I think this kind of gives a bit of reasoning for why Frieden is, I guess, obsessed or interested in collecting all of these different spells, all these kind of quirky magic spells.
Right.
It gives purpose for her long life, a bit of motivation, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I like that. I am curious if this Miliarde person is still alive.
Precisely.
I mean, who knows? I also don't know like what an older elf would look like. Do they wrinkle and age like humans, or do
Yeah.
they just look like adults until the very day they die? I'm not sure.
True.
Because she did not look old.
No, right. She didn't look particularly old. Like, Yeah, and Frieren in that flashback didn't look all that different compared to now. So
Hmm.
if Miliarde would come back into the story, she would probably. I would assume she would look more or less the same. Though I'm not necessarily expecting her to come into the story again. She seemed
No,
like a one-off flashback character, though definitely interesting. By the way, her name means billion in German.
it means what?
Billion, like a billion.
Really
Yeah.
interesting.
So it's yeah, probably just a nod to her long lifespan as an elf, I would guess. Or maybe it's a nod to how many years ago that flashback took place. I don't know.
Wow,
I mean, who knows? Who really knows?
that is really funny though because we have the word million in English,
Precisely, yeah.
and that starts with the MIL.
Mm-hmm.
But why? But why did billion be? I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's actually German and Swedish are similar here. We have
Ah,
well, I'm not going to speak for German right now, though I do think it's very similar to Swedish, so I'm just going to say the Swedish words. Um, we have miljon, which is a million, so it's basically the same. But then we have miljard, which is a billion.
gotcha. So
So
it's the ending that makes it different.
right,
Okay.
yeah, we changed the ending instead of the beginning of it. And I believe we have like a word that is basically a billion, but that's not your billion. It's like bigger than a billion. Or maybe I'm wrong about this actually. Don't take
Trillion?
my word for this. Maybe that is a trillion. Maybe a Swedish billion is an English trillion. Though maybe I'm cutting this out. We'll see, I guess. Either way, yeah. Anything else on Miliarde or Frieren?
Not Milliarda, but I do have more on Frieden.
Cool, cool.
So bear with me.
Go for it.
I know this is not new, but I was just impressed to bring up that I love how her scarf is tied into a bow. It's so cute.
It's very cute.
I don't know if I've ever seen someone tie their scarf like that.
Yeah.
Maybe. Anyway, but it's kind of like, wow, why haven't we been doing this before? Is it possible? Let's get on this, people. New
Yeah.
fashion statement.
Seriously, yeah. Yeah, no, it's great.
And actually, that's all I have.
Alrighty. Then next let's talk a little bit about our boy Stark. He took a direct hit from Revolte, even though Genau
Yeah.
had been very clear on like don't take a direct hit because it's like dangerous. But he still took that hit willingly in order to give Genau an opening, which I thought was incredibly heroic and risky.
Mm-hmm.
And he was also punched straight through his torso after that. So like he took
Hey, Manga
like
now.
yeah, true, both of them did. But like for Stark to like first take that direct hit, and on top of that also the punch through the gut and survive, like I think as Methode said, it was a miracle that he did. But it also, I think it also speaks to his, well, constitution, or like his own capabilities or abilities or whatever you want to say. He's strong,
Yep.
both like defense wise and offense wise. Though he still keeps claiming that most people are stronger than him, which I like. This guy needs to work on his self confidence.
I feel like both him and Fern have some self confidence issues.
True. Yeah, you're
At least
right.
that were pointed out, or felt like they were pointed out in this volume,
Yeah.
just a little bit.
That's true. And actually, I feel like it's been we've had somewhat similar situations before for each of the two, but here we had like pretty clear instances of it from both of them here. Yeah, yeah. So I definitely hope to see them both grow in that regard
Right. Just have a little more confidence in themselves.
because they're both incredible at what they
They
do.
really are. They really are.
And Fern even has the medal to show it for the first class mage thing.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Very true. So a little more on Stark. We got a precious moment of him and Fern holding his hand while he's uh, recovering.
Yes.
It was just on like a little back page. I swear some
Mm-hmm.
of the little images on the in between pages
Mm-hmm.
were so good in this volume.
Right.
So either funny or sweet, just just great.
Yeah, but like that specific one, I think is so. Honestly, I'd say it's important because it really, well,
Yeah.
because that's the only thing in this volume that kind of I guess, plays on what we had previously, like the thing going on between
Hmm.
them. Because other than that little between page, there wasn't really anything on that in this volume. But this is such a sweet little image of her sitting by his bed and holding his hand. Like it's super super cute.
Yeah, I love the I love when he comes back to the campfire. This is before he gets injured. He comes back to the campfire with Genau. He's like, "Hey, you want to? I got a fish. You want a late night snack?"
Yeah.
And first off, Genau was like, "Nah, Methode would scold me. Like, I don't want to do that." He's like, "Ha, that's so funny. Please don't tell Fern."
Yeah, right. Man. Yeah, Methode and Fern are probably more alike than either, or at least than Fern wants to admit.
Yeah, they have some similarities.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I have on Stark.
All right, then let's move on to Fern next. And I wanted to point out that for the first time in a while, we actually had a significant amount of time pass in this volume.
Oh yeah.
We are now 30 years after the death of Himmel. We had been 29 years after the death of Himmel ever since, I believe, volume 3.
Dang, that long, huh?
Yeah. But now we finally had that number go up one year. So we're 30 years after the death of Himmel, which should be 10 years after Fern and Frieren first met. Because they met 20 years after the death of Himmel in volume 1.
Ah.
So they're having their 10-year anniversary or whatever you want to say this year. So I think that's very nice. And this also is the year that Fern and Stark will turn 19. Whether or not they have already, I guess is unclear. But they're 19 or will soon be 19. It's just something I like to keep track of because it's fun.
No, I agree, and I always count on you to do that.
Great.
Because there was a 3 month time jump at the very least. Probably more
Right.
time passed as well.
Yeah,
So, I mean, that's a significant chunk.
it is. Yes. So it made sense for the year to go up from 29 to 30 here.
Hmm.
But anyway, about Fern in the volume itself here, I love how when Frieren was put to work in the silver mine, Fern's first plan was to raid the mine to rescue her.
Yes,
I kind of would have liked to
love
see
it.
that.
Yeah. No choice but to rate the mine.
Yeah. So funny.
Did we know that she knew some ancient Elvish? Was that something that we already knew?
I don't. I didn't remember that specific thing actually. No. So it was nice to see that.
Yeah, and maybe that was part of the first volume where she was training under Frieren. Maybe there was something
Mm.
about learning ancient Elvish, but either way, it was nice to have that brought back up.
Mm.
And I mean, it's important because most grimoires are written in that language, so of course she needs that.
Yeah.
But as we were saying before, she still seems to lack faith in her abilities. I mean, she was really
Right.
kind of freaking out about fighting this one demon. And understandably, as it turned out, he was really a bad matchup for her,
Yeah.
and kind of took away her strong points. But as soon as that fog lifted, end wrecked.
Yeah. Like as soon
You
as
know,
she could get some distance between her and her opponents, as well as the other one too, which she really sniped from a really long distance.
yeah. I don't even know if it's distance per se. I mean, obviously the second one for sure, distance,
Mm.
not being able to detect it. But I think just being able to hide her presence completely so that the demon didn't know where to block. I
Right.
think it was pretty key.
That's true. Yeah, it really has been established, you're right, about her ability to kind of conceal her mana and stuff like that. It
Yeah.
definitely is one of her strong suits. That is definitely one thing. But the other thing, I do believe another strength of hers is kind of her long range magical abilities, which is reflected in her name, which means distance, I believe, in German.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Mm.
I keep thinking about the plant.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But yeah, that's a good point. I mean, she's had the long distance shot practice from her origin on.
Right, precisely.
So
Right. You're right.
yeah, that has been key.
Mm. Anything else on Fern?
Don't praise Frieren so easily. It's bad for her education.
Yeah, man.
She's such a mom. The way she treats
Oh
her
yes, yeah, definitely.
at times. Obviously, it fluctuates.
It does. It
When
does.
they're in the battle, she becomes
Mm.
the child. It's like, please help.
Yeah, they're like each other's mothers, kind of.
Yeah.
No, I really love that dynamic.
That's all I have on Ferd.
Sweet. Then, what do you got on Methode? Because I didn't take any notes on her myself.
Interesting. Well, so as most first class mages do, that we learned, she becomes Serie's apprentice,
Right.
and this is not exclusive to her. Again,
Mm.
so this also could mean that Ubel, it could be considered an apprentice in some way.
Yeah.
I mean, even Genau mentions sending or potentially sending Ubel to do something.
Exactly.
So any of those first class mages could end up returning to the story because of Serie's demands, which is quite good. I wanted to see more of them. I actually wasn't expecting to see Methode, especially this early on.
Right. Yeah. Same.
But I'm glad I'm glad she showed up.
Yeah. Honestly, same. Both her and Genau. Like, I didn't really expect to see
Yeah.
either of them, at least here.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, Genau. I thought he was a one-off character.
Yeah. Right.
One-off character. But yeah, so that was great or interesting to learn about.
Yeah.
She has to limit patting Serie's head to 10 times a day.
Or 10 minutes today, right?
Oh, was it 10 minutes? Oh, I'm sorry.
I believe.
I think I miswrote it.
Either way, though, because I reacted to that like 10 minutes. That's still rather a lot. Like every day, like 10 minutes. Like that's generous.
I mean, she's heartbroken though. It's like only 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's 10 minutes. It's like, oh, come on. Yeah, the way her fascination and adoration of people who are just cuter and smaller is quite, in turn, very adorable.
Absolutely, yeah.
She's from a clan of demon hunters that are actually from this northern peninsula area.
Oh, that's right.
Did we know that before?
I don't think so.
So I thought that was rather interesting.
Yeah.
That even the demons could recognize the kind of type of hunting style that tribe has.
Right.
But in Methode's case, she doesn't solely rely on the thirst of the hunt. She really, for her, magic is fun.
Yeah.
And so she's able to use that to her advantage, especially with these demons, to confuse them and get the upper hand when she's really trying to do, some other magic spells, as she was able to clear that fog so that Fern could wreck everybody.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, thought that was pretty cool.
For sure.
We were talking about Fern and Frieren being each other's moms. It felt like Methode was almost like an older sister for Genau, even though Genau was supposed to be the senpai of the group of the pair.
Yeah, I can see that.
I mean, because like not only we had that one moment where don't tell, or I don't want to get in trouble with Methode if I eat late night snack.
Right.
But we also had at the very end, it's like, now say thank you.
Oh, that's too. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's such an interesting dynamic.
Yes, and I like how he actually did say thank you to it. Like he
Yes,
actually like obeyed,
he did.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd obey too if they, told me to do it, but unfortunately, there's only room for one older lady in the party.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, Frieren has the mantle right now. So sorry, Methode. Okay.
Yeah.
Poor sign.
Yeah, right.
He could have had the woman of his dreams, or at
missed
least
his
be in the
chance.
presence of the woman of his dreams. But wouldn't it be funny if Methode and Sign had a moment together? I think that'd be very interesting. I'm not expecting to go anywhere per se.
Yeah.
But it would be funny to see those two interact, and maybe just to see Sign simp inside.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like that's mostly what it would be. Like I don't know how interested she would be in him. Like.
No, I agree. I mean, I'd be shocked if it became anything.
Right. Yeah. No, but it would be a funny meeting.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's what I have on Methode.
Cool. Then let's move on to Fuss next. The dwarf whose name means barrel in German.
Ah,
Makes sense with, a barrel of beer and all.
indeed.
And the region that we met him in is called the Bier region. Bier obviously meaning beer in German.
Lol.
Surprise, surprise. And yeah, he's on this search for the legendary beverage Boshaft, which means like spiteful or malicious in German.
Oh, interesting.
Which I guess is because of its kind of misleading nature of it, kind of
Uh,
how it's kind of treacherous in that way.
you want to know how I would have read it?
Huh?
Bow shaft.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Actually, that's how I read it first, but then I realized, wait a minute, this is probably a German word, so it would be Boshaft.
Smart. Boshaft.
Yeah.
That sounds a little bit better, to be honest.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, as a beer lover or a spirit connoisseur that he is, it makes sense. Or I like how he has like the One Piece for him. Like
yeah.
it's this the ultimate spirit. It's
Exactly.
sad that it turns out to be just crappy liquor, but I love the message at the end
Yeah.
by the whole party. Truly the specialness of the moment is the real treasure.
Mm.
Obviously like having something good taste good or something that is pretty to look at it is very nice and that can be memorable. That's the word. But in reality, it's being in the moment and the people you share it with, and kind of the journey it took to get there. That's where the real memories come,
Right.
or more memories can come. So I think while it's easy to get down on, you know, having this terrible liquor be the magical thing that you've been looking for your whole life.
Yeah,
Uh, I think it's great to have a different mindset
for
and
sure.
being like, hey, you know what? This is a good moment. This is great. Good
Yeah.
for us.
And I love how even though Foss had spent like the past 200 years or like more than that even on this, like dedicating his life to this for that long, he didn't seem to really take it that badly. Like he wasn't sour about it or anything.
Yeah,
He just, yeah, and I think that even more just elevated this moment into something really, really beautiful.
indeed.
And how, yeah, the whole town just enjoyed that disgusting liquor together. uh, but I guess that's all on Fuss.
Yes.
Then let's talk about our boy or our man, Denken.
I know.
He's back briefly. So glad to see him again.
Yeah, same.
And yeah, he seems to have a pretty grand adventure ahead of him, which
Bro.
I'm sure Frieren and the others will join him for. But
Oh my gosh.
but yeah, that final remaining one out of the seven sages of destruction is probably gonna enter the story here next volume, I would think, but pretty soon, regardless.
Mm-hmm.
And his name is Macht, which means power in German.
Ah.
So yeah, he's probably powerful, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, talk about hype. I mean,
Yeah.
Decken is returning to his home. I didn't even think that his actual homeland would be the realm of the most powerful uh sage of destruction. I didn't even think that was possible. I just thought, yeah, he's he's never been able to go there because his home is all the way up there in
Uh huh.
some pretty dangerous place. But no, it is probably the most dangerous.
Yeah. So that seems like it's going to be a major arc coming up here, probably, with Denken and with Macht and everything.
Yeah, I hope this chapter was just the start point of
Mm,
this pretty great arc for him.
right.
Um,
And also, like, it's kind of like it's a little scary and sad, I think, to learn that his whole town was transmuted into gold.
yeah,
Probably by Macht. I understood it as Macht having done that.
I would assume. Yeah.
And I wonder if all the people there are also turned into like just gold statues
Oh
or stuff
man.
like that.
Hmm.
I guess we'll see.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a lot of this is going to be great for predictions. So I
Yes,
think most of my
yes,
predictions are going to come from this.
for sure.
But still, it was great to get this tease.
Mm,
And yeah, we'll talk about more a little bit later.
For sure, we will. Then next up, well, yeah, about the demon Revolte, the big four-armed snake guy. Only thing I got is just the translation of his name, which literally just means revolt in German. It's yeah,
Ah,
it's not anything more exciting than that, or yeah,
right, right.
pretty self-explanatory. Did you have anything else on him or any of the other demons?
Yeah, I mean, just in general, we had like some good fights. Obviously, uh, gosh, Revolte.
Yeah,
How do you say it again?
yeah.
Revolte. That was fun and exciting. It had that twist with the demon pretending to be a child and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it is so funny that you get a glimpse of these demons, like briefly. For example, the little child and Revolte, and it's like, oh, are they gonna be pretty big? Like these are the next enemies or something? But I mean, the child didn't even have didn't really have much. It's like, aren't you proud of me? And then cut in half. That's it.
Right, right.
Uh, maybe a tad bit anticlimactic, but that's kind of been the story of all these demons, except for the main ones.
Yeah.
Uh, they don't last long, and that's really because there isn't like some sort of sad backstory for them.
Mm-hmm.
I like how they have taken the human quality or the humanity side that we associate with uh, these stories a lot out of the demons,
Yeah.
so that in truth they are just seen as these different beings that are really just monsters,
Precisely. Yeah, through and
and
through.
not something that can be truly reasoned with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so in that sense, like you can't truly sympathize with them other than just kind of feel sad for their lack of depth
Yeah.
as a species. But yeah, so that was just something that was on my mind because normally, if there was like a villain like this that would pop up and then just die, like, well, that was a waste, or like, what was the point? But that's these demons are built differently.
Right. Yeah.
No, I mean, they're more true to how demons were probably in the more so in the beginning of when these fairy tales were created. I feel
Exactly.
like I could be wrong. I'm not a professional, but that's how I feel.
Right, but no, but I feel like several volumes back now, I believe we had a similar discussion about this, where yeah, we kind of found this appreciation for this way that they depict the demons in a way that is, I think, unique compared to modern writing, but probably more
Uh
in
huh.
line with, as you said, like probably more in line with how demons were viewed way, way, way back in the day. When
Yeah.
like maybe around their conception of the idea of a demon, maybe, or and well, a long time ago, regardless.
Hmm.
So I do appreciate that as well. But is there any other character you want to talk about?
Just one more, and more so an acknowledgement
Mm-hmm.
because of their influence in the Northern Peninsula. It's the Norm Company.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Basically, they're just a group of merchants that more or less are the ruling power in the Northern Plateau. And then their president, Norm, is an ancestor of someone that knew the Hero Party. That was basically their main funder. Um, so
Yeah.
that was cool to learn about. I don't really expect to see Norm again. I mean, who knows? But not really a character that's going to be a mainstay. But the company themselves, I don't know. I mean,
Right.
maybe we'll have a chapter where they bring them fresh bread so they're not eating this rock hard stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, no, but in general,
Yeah.
I do also feel like the company's probably going to remain relevant, at least for as long as they stay in the Northern Plateau, which is going to be for a while, because I
Yeah.
believe it's a pretty large area that they got to get through here. Norm, by the way, surprise, surprise, means really the same thing in German as it does in English. It means norm, or like standard, kind of.
Mm.
So no big surprise about that German word. But there are some other German words that I just wanted to go over quickly here
Okay.
that appeared throughout this volume. The first being the name of the region where the volume started, which was called Nachricht, which means message. And
Oh,
I couldn't connect that to anything significant in that chapter.
is this the very first chapter?
Yeah, the very first chapter. Uh,
Ah, I see it. Yeah.
But I guess moving on right away to the next one, which and this I guess is a little bit about the world as well. At least to my recollection, for the first time, we get to know some names of some of the currencies in this world,
Right,
other
right.
than just gold and silver and I guess copper and stuff like that. Where there's the Reich coins or Reich gold coins, which means like Reich means rich. So makes sense that money would like it. Yeah, there's connection to money there. Uh, and the other currency being called Strahl gold coins. Strahl meaning beam,
Mm.
and I couldn't really connect that to anything specific, but oh well. And the last translation I got is in the volume's last chapter. They find themselves in the Drachen region. Drachen, of course, meaning dragon. Uh,
Ah,
and
kind of on the nose.
yeah. And I like, and this wasn't total news to me, though this chapter did remind me of the expression thunder of dragons, like how it's used kind of as, a pack of wolves or a herd of sheep or flock of birds.
A gaggle.
Yeah.
Hmm.
How it's called, like in fantasy settings, a thunder of dragons. I had heard it before, but I had kind of forgotten about it. So I think it's a fun,
Yeah.
slightly silly thing, maybe, but it's so funny how it's so established, kind of, in the
Mm.
fantasy in fantasy settings for somehow. It's interesting.
I wonder what the Japanese what did they just do romaji like Sunda Abu Dragon
Right.
or like or is there an actual term in Japanese for a group of dragons?
Precisely. Yeah. I wonder. I wonder. Oh well. Shall we move on to predictions?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Let's go. So yeah, as we kind of already touched on, seems pretty safe to predict that the upcoming arc will be, dealing with Macht and Denkin and his hometown and that whole deal.
Yeah. I wonder if it'll be, the next chapter, like go right into it, or if we're gonna
Uh,
have another, you know, slight detour from the Frieren team, and then they come upon Denkin's place.
mm,
Or I mean, there's a few ways they could take it, but I do feel like if you're gonna like tease an arc like this, it would be nice to bring in Frieren's group to help Denkin.
right. And I'm sure they will.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd like whether it's like the next chapter literally or if it's just a little bit into the next volume, it's going to happen
Hmm.
next volume. I believe, Denkin and Frieren and the others, they will all unite and start the thing in his city or in his town with Macht.
Now the question is, will Denkin die here?
Oh, oh, oh.
I wonder because I mean, they do kind of allude to the fact that he's going to his death,
Hmm.
going to his grave or whatever.
True. Although if Frieren is there, then he does stand a better chance at survival, I suppose.
Absolutely. So it probably depends on when they get there. I mean, even if it's the next chapter, time could have passed. Maybe Decken tries to fight him and unfortunately gets mortally wounded.
Right.
And maybe they arrive too late. That'd be very
That would
sad
be very
and
sad.
maybe a bit anticlimactic. I would kind of like I would like to see them have a combined force against this
Hmm.
sorcerer, but or sage, I guess you should say.
Right, right.
But yeah,
Actually, have we ever had in the story a main character dying not from old age, like a main character, an actual character in the story dying from like a battle? Have we had that?
hmm,
I can't think of
I don't
one.
know.
And if it is the case that it hasn't happened before, then surely there could be a first with Denken here, but maybe it's not that type of story. I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't put it past them. I definitely could see it happening, but I'm also a little bit like I wonder, since at least right now I can't think of that having happened up until now. Then maybe that means that it won't happen.
Yeah, that's a good point. At the very least, we've come this far. There has to be some sort of closure between him and his wife, who's already passed away. Meaning that I think he needs to be able to see the grave,
Yes.
be there, whether he's like where he dies next to it or he
Mm.
puts flowers there, is able to purify the town, and so it's not just pure gold anymore.
Right.
Whatever the case may be, I do hope we have that satisfying conclusion for his journey.
Absolutely. Yeah, really, really hope so too. And that may be some like the ending of this coming arc. I kind of hope it won't be in the next volume. I hope this will be such a long arc that it spans into volume 10.
That would be nice. I'm also curious about where is Laufen. I don't think she'd be
Oh
here,
yeah.
although she could have because she could just travel with the first class mage, as we see Frieren is doing with Fern.
True.
But I think Laufen and kind of the relationship that Denkin established with her
Mm,
makes me feel like Denkin has something to live for a little bit more.
true.
As long as they're still close. If they're still close and he still treats her like his grandchild,
Yeah.
I mean that could. While the other two mages thought he was going to his death, maybe he has this kind of inner strength where I need to keep on living so that I can still dote on this girl that I just met. But I mean, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's not weird. Trust me.
Not, it's not that weird. I think it's a very innocent and just pure little
Yeah.
relationship that they found there,
Oh, absolutely, absolutely pure. Like nothing else besides that.
Yeah. But I had sort of, well, I hadn't forgotten about Laufen, but I hadn't considered her presence here. Now I kind of want to see her in this upcoming arc. Like alongside Denkin, though I'm not going to get my hopes up.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like they had established such a strong relationship
Right.
in a way that it would be kind of a shame if it was not at least mentioned in some way, whether it's actually a big moment for Denkin or just, offhand, hey, I gotta go back, gotta go make sure my grandkid is doing okay.
Yeah. Precisely. And then I had the thought that, well, we already said that we're expecting Stein to come back in the story at some point. Though obviously not necessarily like in this upcoming arc. Though maybe. Like maybe this Golden City arc or whatever it's going to be called. Maybe this will be when he rejoins the party.
That'd be kind of cool. Like he comes in last minute. An idea I just had. Methode obviously offers her assistance, but Frieren's like, I can get by. I can't do much healing, but I could do some white mage stuff. And it's like, oh, could that be like a flag where they're gonna need it going forward at some point? And so what if like Denkin gets really bad and Frieren can't heal him?
Right.
But Sign comes in and saves the day. I mean, maybe that's a little too heroic, but I don't know. I think that'd be kind of a cool way to bring him back and keep Denkin alive,
could be,
but also have the stakes high.
Right, for sure. And and if Sign doesn't rejoin the party during this upcoming part, then I at least expect him to join relatively shortly after it's concluded.
Yeah.
Yeah. It can't be too long before he comes back,
I agree, especially with the tease we had this volume. It's clear that they don't want us to forget about him yet.
Exactly. So I'm very much looking forward to that, whenever and however it's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm not like truly confident it will happen in this arc specifically.
No.
But I think it is coming, like you said. I think my last prediction is more so a want. I really want another Fern and start date.
Yes.
Like, come on.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can't do it all the time. It can't be every chapter. Then we change the genre entirely. But I don't know, man. Like, it was so wholesome and such a great step for them. I want to see Frieren in her happy braids and just know that Fern is a very happy girl. Like that's all I want to know.
Yeah,
that's all I want to see.
Absolutely, yeah, me too. Yeah.
No, I think there's like just so much potential between those two.
There really is. They're so fun together.
Yeah, so fun. Grow the relationship, grow as people.
Definitely. And this upcoming arc, assuming it's going to start like pretty much right away, and that it's going to be the focus for several chapters, then maybe during that time there won't be time for dating, sadly.
Yeah.
Uh, but
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm also like, yeah, as soon as there is an opportunity for it, as soon as the moment is right, then please, yes, do go on a second date.
I mean, of course, the Northern Plateau is incredibly dangerous. I
Yeah.
mean, they just took down a Thunder Dragon for Pete's sake.
Yeah.
So I think, I mean, I guess you count that as a date, man. You know, it's like
Yeah.
Stark got intimate with the dragon.
A little too intimate.
But yeah. So I agree with you that it is not likely that's going to be happening, particularly in this next arc whenever that starts.
Mm.
Who knows? It may not be for a little bit, but I I don't think we can go like all the way to the Demon King's castle without them having another date. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
for sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Now, but by the time we get there to Ende, they will have gone on at least a few more dates. I'm sure.
By the time we get there, that he's gonna put a ring on it. I'm just kidding.
Right. But who knows? Maybe they'll have time to squeeze in a second date, like at the very start of the next volume, before the whole Golden City
Oh,
part
maybe
starts for them. There's a chance.
potential.
uh, I suppose that's all for predictions.
Yeah, that's it.
Sweet. And yeah, I guess I can agree with what you said at the start of the discussion here, that I guess as far as Frieren volumes go, this one might not be like the strongest ever.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, still definitely a fun read, and with one of the most exciting endings so far, I think. Like, it definitely has me really hyped for the second volume.
Ah, yes, yes.
Maybe more so than any of the other volumes have had me be excited, you know?
I mean, we both love Denken,
Mm-hmm.
and are very supportive of his dreams and aspirations. So to have this be the cliffhanger and to learn the truth about his town is just so much excitement, so much hype.
Yes.
I really can't wait for the next volume. I'm super excited for the next volume.
Right? Yeah.
Just for that alone.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, it was only like those last few pages. Like, yeah, it was very little. That just, yeah, the excitement just skyrocketed thanks to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, gonna be few months maybe until then, but the wait will be worth it, I am sure.
For sure. For sure.
All right, then I suppose that's it for this week.
Yeah.
If you enjoy our content, you can follow us on Twitter at Umami Manga, and it would be lovely if you'd like to support us by rating our show on the podcast platforms and subscribing to our channel Umami Manga on YouTube. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time when we'll talk about Volume 9. Bye bye!
See you later.
All right, just gonna stretch a little bit. That was nice.
Good.